Hey there, welcome to the National Post Speakeasy. I'm Marie Danielle Smith, and this is my colleague Maura Forrest. We're reporters at Parliament Hill. Maura, the New Democratic Party has been dealing with a lot of interesting stories lately. We have some allegations of sexual harassment and resulting investigations within the caucus. This is all leading to a bigger question, though, about Jagmeet Singh's leadership. Since he took over last fall, he's been dealing with one issue after another. How do you think he's been handling this series of harassment allegations?
Yeah, well, I think that is a really interesting question, with this issue. I think that we've seen Jagmeet Singh maybe make a couple of missteps over the last few months. There was an issue a few months ago that was unrelated to sexual harassment allegations, where Jagmeet Singh made the decision to punish a member of caucus for voting against the party line. It was a punishment that many in his caucus felt was was unfair, was too harsh. Some members of his caucus spoke out publicly, and the leader eventually had to walk that back and reverse course on that. Contrast that with the sexual harassment allegations that we've been seeing more recently. Obviously, this has been a really important moment for Jagmeet Singh to show his ability as a leader. Mm-hmm. And I think what we've seen thus far is that largely his caucus has been behind him on these allegations. So there was a decision last week to expel Saskatchewan MP Aaron Weir from caucus in the wake of an investigation into allegations of harassment. And I think what we heard from a lot of caucus members was they felt it was unfortunate. They weren't happy about the way this went, but they did feel that the leader made the decision that he had to make. Going into this next investigation involving Quebec MP Christine Moore, we'll have to see if that remains the case. Mm-hmm. I do think so far his caucus largely seems to be behind him on this.
Yeah, so this is an example of sort of some solidarity in the NDP behind their leader. But there have been criticisms that Jagmeet Singh hasn't been in Ottawa enough, he doesn't have a seat here, that he maybe doesn't understand his caucus's position on certain issues. Do you think that he's getting better at that?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, certainly those were the criticisms around that issue I mentioned a few months ago with the punishment against a veteran NDP MP. Several MPs at the time were suggesting, he just doesn't know all of his caucus members that well yet. He's not in Ottawa all the time. Mm-hmm. He's been traveling around the country. And, he just hasn't maybe got his finger on the pulse of his own party just yet. And then we've seen still some fumbles here and there. Just recently, there was an instance where he was in Ottawa taking questions about the Liberals' gun bill, and he was asked about his party's position, and he wasn't sure. He had to, during a scrum where he was surrounded by reporters, he had to kind of turn around and ask his parliamentary leader to clarify what the position was. So we are still seeing these kind of fumbles, these sort of missteps from Jagmeet Singh. So we'll see. We'll see if those wrinkles get smoothed out. Mm-hmm.
Well, just over a year until the next federal election campaign, so we'll have to watch and see what happens. Thanks very much for joining us on the Speakeasy. We'll see you next time.